I'm telling you, those antibiotics.
Still got that cough?
Yep.
Yeah.
and Jackie are the ones that have been working with the two schools. And the way I read that thing, he was going to have some kind of a meeting, but I misread because,
Okay,
sorry.
that's better.
It's all right.
Yep, that's better, okay.
Because I definitely
I'm
was
gonna
going
put
to
you
say,
back over here,
what are
okay?
you doing? You don't do that.
Probably did something
He's
just
the
about.
precinct committee member for this area, for the
How's the view
Republican
there?
Party. So
Great.
No wonder it's him.
I'm hoping
See
that's
Jackie and Ty
he's
again.
doing that, not for all, I mean, as a precinct
You don't have
committee
your
member,
pajamas on this time.
you know.
No, I didn't put my pajamas on. The high school kids were doing that a few years ago, weren't they? Wearing their pajamas to school or something like that?
I have a 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order and ask that the clerk please call roll.
Mr. Jim Benage,
Present via Skype.
Mr. Jeff Elshoff, Mr. Jeff Hawes,
Here.
Ms. Betty Martine,
Here,
Mr. Justin Smith.
Here.
Wonderful. So we do have a quorum, and do want to let everybody know that Councilmember Elsoff did let us know in advance that he is on a much-deserved family vacation with 4 little ones. So God bless him, and hope he
did he
has
take
fun.
the dog?
Don't know. So, but hopefully he can enjoy some rest and relaxation over this holiday week. For opening prayer, is Pastor Mark Paulson here? Do not see him. So, did not, okay, and that's okay. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to use this as a time to remind all members of clergy living in Bel Aire, if you want to give a prayer, blessing over the city council and the city before council meetings, we have opened that up and would encourage any and all clergy members in Bel Aire and churches in Bel Aire to, of all faiths, to contact us to do that. But I am going to ask that the council join me in a moment of silent prayer at this point then. Amen. Now please rise and join us in the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have no additional agenda items to put before us this evening. However, do want to let council know we will need a 30-minute executive session at the end of our regular business. We have a pretty short agenda this evening. For that, we're going to look at an IRB, have the open meeting for that, and then we have a lease agreement we're going to look at, and to look at a way of getting one of our ponds cleaned up. So the first thing to come before council this evening are the minutes from our last meeting, which took place on June 18th.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second, any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next is appropriation ordinance 19-13 in the amount of $295,697.62. This is a pretty typical payment cycle with payroll and other basic operational expenses. So I know sometimes we have larger amounts. We try to explain that, but this is a pretty typical one. If there's any questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Smith.
I move to approve appropriations ordinance 19-13.
Second.
First and second, questions or comments on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Is he saying aye?
Yeah, I haven't heard him read, but, yeah, you haven't objected to anything yet, have you? Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, being on a computer,
Yes.
a little bit of a delay there, but we'll. City requested appearances, I do not have any. And at this point, if there's anyone in the council wishing to address council on an agenda item this evening. We open up every meeting at this time. All right, moving right along then, we're going to move into public hearing. This is something we have to do because the state says we have to do it. State statute does require that when a governing body is contemplating issuing any type of IRB, which is an industrial revenue bond, the public is given notice and they have the opportunity to share concerns and also to ask questions of any of us. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak on the proposed WHAM investment number 11 IRB, this is the time. I'm declaring the public hearing open. Again, if anyone in the audience wishes to speak to this IRB, they can come to the podium at this time. Okay. Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a first and we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Councilmember reports, we'll start with Councilmember Hawes.
The only thing I would have to say this week is with the holiday upon us this Thursday, I would ask for everybody to take extra care as they're driving along, as they're having fun celebrating with their families. There's going to be lots of people in the streets trying to have a good time as well. So please take caution, take care, and have an enjoyable weekend.
Okay. Councilmember Benaj.
Mr. Mayor, I echo those, Councilmember Hawes' sentiments. I do hope everybody has a great Independence Day and a great weekend. I also want to just announce that we are going to hold a public forum at the Bel Aire City Hall on July 26th. That's a Friday, for the candidates of the USD 259 at-large primary, which is August the 6th, I believe. And 3 of the 4 candidates who are in that primary have committed to that forum, so we will have at least 3 of the candidates there, and look forward to having the public show up and hear what the candidates have to say and be better informed in their voting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Martine.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The only thing I have this evening is to wish everybody a happy 4th of July.
Then I'm sorry, the attorney wanted to.
Mr. Mayor, would you have Councilmember Benaj clarify who is hosting that event so as not to presume that it's the city hosting?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Councilmember Benaj, I'm sorry, our city attorney makes a good point. If you could just, for the record, clarify who is hosting the...
I am hosting this public forum. It is not an official event of the city of Bel Aire, but and I apologize for not having said that. I should have said that, so thank you.
And it's just for school board?
It is just for the school board, just for the at-large primary. There are 4 candidates who've signed up for that at-large primary, so 3 of them have committed to be there.
Okay. Are we good there? All right, perfect. Councilmember Smith?
I have no report.
All righty. I have nothing formal to report tonight other than was able to attend the CCUA meeting on Thursday. I appreciate Councilmember Martine being there and finding out that we had David Floyd, one of our alternates, also there. And so Betty, I know, has filled in the last 2-3 months in a row. I think there's been one of us, and I've been one of them at one point. So for that, so I do appreciate all of her work on that. As far as July 4th, I just want to do a general reminder to everybody that our policy, our law here is that fireworks can only be detonated on the 4th. Every year, the governing body and our police department receives complaints prior to July 4th, and this year has been no exception. I actually did have spoke with a couple of neighbors. I kind of took it upon myself, and I was walking around just by the way, you can't do that, and they acted like they didn't know whether they did or not, but through that kind of opened up the door for a conversation, and some ideas that they shared with me are things I will share with council maybe at a future workshop, how we maybe want to look at that, because I thought there's some other ways that we can look at that where this is one of those things where if every single one of us up here had a magic wand and can make everybody happy with fireworks on July 4th, and we could only use it once out of 365 days, we'd probably use it for this one because we hear more pro and more con on this one issue for that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to make the public and council, the governing body, aware of the City of Topeka versus DWAGFS manufacturing case. It's a big case for home rule. Prior to this case, well, just some background. Before the state of Kansas passed home rule, all supreme power rested with the state, and the state had to delegate power for individual localities to act. So if the state said you could act in this area, you could. When the state of Kansas passed home rule, that essentially turned that on its head and said, unless the state has acted in this field, in a specific field, then cities are free to act in any way that they see fit. So all the power rested with the localities, and that was the written intent of the law. Over time, though, many argue that that has been eroded because recently that had been interpreted as if the city wrote a law or statute on schools, now localities couldn't act on that broad subject, or on drinking, then localities were restricted on that broad subject and often would get their local ordinances overturned just because the legislature acted generally on that topic, even though the two ordinances may not be related. So it was starting to erode, some would say. However, this case clarified that the legislative intent to preempt any local city ordinance must be clearly manifested on the face of a statute, and it's not implied. So that's huge. Basically, a city can act via ordinance where no state law exists on a subject, or where uniform laws exist, but the intent is not expressed to preempt or to take up the entire field. So it just has to be very, very clear that the legislature intends to act on any topic. So long as there's no conflict with the state law, local ordinances are to be upheld according to our state Supreme Court. So just briefly, the facts of this case, a local vape shop in Topeka, two local vape shops in Topeka sued Topeka when Topeka passed an ordinance to enforce, to restrict the sale of tobacco products to people who are under 21. The vape shop argued that the state has acted in that area. The state regulates smoking for people under 18. So therefore, that whole subject is taken. The Supreme Court found that, yes, the state had acted related to people under 18, but there was a gap between people 18, 19, 20, 21. That whole gap was a space that the local ordinance could be relevant. So because it was silent in those areas, the ordinance that the Topeka governing body passed was upheld, and they were able to regulate smoking for people 21 within the city. So it's a very interesting case, a very relevant case for home rule. So, and that's all I have to say.
And home rule is something that I know we've talked about up here for a while, so it's constantly under one of those jobs.
Yes.
So appreciate you looking out for us in that report on that. Moving on now to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder to our citizens that City Hall is closed Thursday and Friday, July 4th and 5th. And as the mayor said, fireworks can only be detonated on the 4th from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. On Friday and Saturdays, if the 4th falls on those days, it's till midnight, but since it's on a Thursday, it's 11 p.m. We do recommend that people, if there are complaints before or after, that they call the emergency line set up by Sedgwick County, which is 316-290-01 or 1011, 290-1011 rather than 911, because they get a lot of calls 911, and emergency calls sometimes can take it back, or it takes longer to actually get an emergency operator. So, and our police department will be out in full force to make sure that people are in compliant. Another thing I wanted to mention, city staff has organized a Pack the Patrol car this year. It's an event that we're running from July 8th through August 6th, and we're collecting school supplies for the Wichita Children's Home for the upcoming school year, so people can drop those off at City Hall if they'd like to participate, or we'll also have the actual police car at National Night Out, which National Night Out is August 6th, so a month away, and this year it's going to be at City Hall from 5:30 to 7. The reason it was moved from the fire station, where it's been a number of years, is due to the lack of space, lack of parking availability, the inside facilities that we have here. People can get in and out of the heat if it's hot, and then of course we have the restroom facilities, which the fire station didn't have for the public. So I know they've already got plans and a lot of fun things that are going to happen, but just a reminder, it'll be here at City Hall. So thank you, Mayor.
Appreciate that. Okay, with that, we're going to move into ordinance resolutions and final actions. The first item is item A, the IRB. It's an assignment resolution that comes before us this evening. This is for the property at 9720 East 50th Street. That's over in the Sunflower Commerce Park. That building is leased to Nordic Stone. The owner of Nordic Stone is purchasing the building from the property owner. So the action this evening is to allow the IRB to move to the business owner from the property owner. So since it's a lease over there, I saw Kevin Gallen is back here with Gilmore and Bell to answer any questions, or if there's anything else you want to add to that I left out.
I'll add just a little.
Please do.
So, as the mayor said, this is just a sale transaction, and because of the bond documents, the way that occurs is through an assignment and transfer. The city is the controlling entity on that property while the bonds are outstanding. So the city has to consent to that sort of transfer. The bondholder has to consent to that transfer, which is Kansas State Bank. And then we also have the subtenant on that property also consenting to it. I got a bit of information right before I drove here, and that is Kansas State Bank is still in the middle of their processing of this transaction, where they're going to have a new entity that is the debtor that's going to have to make the payment. So they go through that with due diligence like it was a brand new transaction. So this may not close in a week or two. I think there was some hurry to get some of this done, but I wanted to update you on that. You may act on this and it may not close until the 1st of August or something, but we did want to get this taken care of as quickly as we could.
So is it appropriate, since it won't close until August, that we go on and pass this resolution now?
I think so. I mean, you could wait to a later date, but part of the thought was all of the terms and provisions are known. What we are still waiting for, or will be waiting for, is just Kansas State Bank, as I said, to do their due diligence before they sign their consent. So tonight, the city would just approve this resolution and would allow their consent to be given, and we would just wait on one more party to give that consent. So I think it's okay to approve it tonight, because I don't think any deal terms are going to change, and you could undoubtedly wait, but we may be playing catch up a little bit if Kansas State Bank acts a little more quickly than we thought, and then you have a seller that's probably bugging the city manager again about get this on the agenda so we can get it approved quickly. So I'll leave it up to you. You could wait because I don't think it's going to happen in the next week or so, but again, if you take action, I don't think any of the terms or details are going to change in the next few weeks.
And that's, I mean, we've got it on our agenda this evening. I'm sorry, Councilmember Smith. So yes, I appreciate the explanation of that.
I was just going to say, I think we had to take care of this tonight. I don't want to be in a position where we're holding up this transaction for these folks.
Right.
Complete agreement. Any other questions from the council members?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I move to approve a resolution of the governing body of the City of Bel Aire, Kansas, authorizing the assignment and assumption of lease and related bond documents from Midwest Sunflower LLC to Sunflower Property Partners LLC, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
We have a first and 3 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. And Councilmember Benaj, that was an aye for approving.
Yes.
Okay, want to make sure. Delay that just.
I got caught.
I had assumed so, but wanted to absolutely make sure.
That's fine.
Yeah, item B is agreement with Garver LLC for staking and inspections on all public infrastructure improvements. What we do is our city, we hire a consulting engineer that completes inspections while the project's going on. This ensures that the project is built to engineering plans as well as city codes. We like to use a separate firm from the construction company. Garver has a very good inspection team that we have used in the past. City engineer is recommending them for this project. This is in the second edition of the Sunflower Commerce Park, and do want to point out that the cost of this for the inspection are included in the project cost and spread as the special assessments to the benefiting parcels. So nothing's coming back on the city taxpayers at this point. But I do see that our city engineer is here. If anybody does have any questions, I can certainly call her up. But otherwise, we'll see if there's motion.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question, and it may be more for our city attorney than a city engineer, but either one of them could certainly speak to it.
Okay, yeah, we've got our city engineers at the podium, and so go ahead.
Hi, Ann.
Hi, Jim.
So under scope of services, there's a 1, 2, 3, and then there's client will provide and or accomplish the following. I'm concerned about paragraph 5 under that section, client will provide and accomplish the following. Client will not hire any Garver's employees during performance of this contract or for a period of 1 year beyond completion of this contract. I don't know if that's standard verbiage in these kind of contracts, but it just seems a little bit onerous. In a small community like Wichita and the surrounding area, there's only a handful of engineering firms out there. If we need to hire an engineer for city, that's really limiting. I wonder if there'd be consideration of removing just for a period of 1 year off of that, and just that we wouldn't hire the Garver employee during the performance of the contract.
Yeah, Jackie, if you want to speak to this, we also have Chris Bohm from Garver here that he can speak to it as well. So.
Yeah. As far as, and I'll probably let Chris speak on this, but as far as seeing it in other contracts with other engineering firms we've worked with, it's there. I think that the same concern you have is about a small pool of engineers is the same thing that often encourages them to really want some sort of protection in their contracts. So we haven't typically had an issue with it, but I'll let Chris speak to whether or not they would concede to that point.
Okay, so we'll go invite him up to the podium and get with Garver. I know you guys have a good inspection team, but
we do.
Tell a little bit
you.
more about it. Yeah, thank you.
I'm very proud of them.
Including the Bel Aire resident.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for the opportunity. Number one, thank you so much for this opportunity to assist you with this inspection work, staking and inspection. We're very proud to serve the city of Bel Aire and have before. In regard to the comment in the contract, that's our standard contract language. I mean, the intent there is that a client wouldn't target an employee of Garver, but if you put up an open solicitation for work and an employee on their own volition pursued it, that's not what that clause really means. So it's a protection for us. I'm assuming that some of the other firms have similar language in the contracts that you see as well, but that's what that's all about. So I hope that answers your question, and if you need any more clarification, I stand for questions.
Do any council members have questions?
Would you consider adding clarification to that paragraph there, of your intent there, that we don't pursue the employee, but if the employee came to us and we were actively looking for somebody?
Absolutely. We'd be happy to add that as a caveat to that sentence.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think that's a good call out. The other thing that could at some point happen there is if one of Garber's employees should happen to go work for not necessarily us, but another consulting firm that we were to then hire, the way that this is written, and it could, imply that we couldn't actually even hire that consulting firm because that employee had gone to the other firm. So I do like that clarification there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it again.
Mr. Mayor, the other question that I had was really around the cost and the rate, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding the way that this contract is written appropriately. I think what I'm understanding is that we're going to pay a time and materials hourly rate based on the actual amount of work that's being done up to a specific dollar amount, not that this contract is for a specific dollar amount. And that's what I was kind of reading into the contract, but it wasn't abundantly clear to me, and so I just wanted to make sure that that is the intent of the contract.
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move to approve the agreement with Garber LLC for construction, inspection, testing, and observation of the detention pond in Sunflower Commerce Park second at a cost not to exceed $28,731.50 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second, any other questions or comments?
Yes, I would ask that we amend that motion to include the changes that Garber has just agreed to.
Okay, Councilmember Smith, do you amend your motion? to
Yes,
that?
I do.
Okay, Councilmember Hawes, do you amend your second?
I do.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same
Thank you.
sign. Okay.
I didn't want him to be the only one saying aye late.
Hey, I wrote it down 4-0, so it's happened, and we appreciate Garber. Discussion and future issues before I ask for our executive session. Normally, we would have a workshop on Tuesday. We have a very special celebration that evening that we maybe should mention earlier. I know we've mentioned a couple times. We're very proud of our city attorney, Jacqueline, being named to the 40 under 40 thing. So congratulations again on that. But would Monday or Wednesday work? For that, again, we're kind of in round 2 of our budgeting, so I know we wouldn't have that. Depending on what comes out of this evening night, we might have some very preliminary discussion as well that I might add.
Mr. Mayor, the Wednesday the 10th would work for me.
Would or would not?
Would.
Wednesday the 10th is better for me. I could do the Monday the 8th, but I am in Anthony, Kansas that day, so getting back here by 6:30 is a little challenging.
Drive fast.
Well, Wednesday the 10th works for, I know, 3 of us. Does it work for you? Mm-hmm. I say let's go ahead and let's move it to July 10th at 6:30. And we'll do some social media as well, making sure that everybody knows that we're moving for that. So at this
Work
point,
for them?
what's that?
Does it work for them? The minutes?
Yeah, yeah.
Better.
We'd had that conversation beforehand. I'm sorry.
Okay.
At this point, I would ask council for an executive session, probably for 30 minutes. You think that'd be enough?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move to go into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing the subject of consultation with attorney about proposed agreements and related negotiations. Pursuant to KSA 7543-19, exception for attorney-client privilege, invite the city manager and city attorney. The meeting will be for a period of 30 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at
7:58.
7:58.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. We will resume at 7:58. No binding action was taken. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Ask if there's any other business to come before council this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I move to extend the executive session by a period of 15 minutes with the open meeting resuming at 8:15.
Second.
Have first and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And let the record show we did not bring Jim's computer back in, so we had the 3-0 vote.
Well, Melissa, you might get to go home yet tonight. Yeah. They all left.
Council just had an executive session, no binding action was taken. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Before I ask if there's any business to come before council this evening, I would like to announce that we will have a special meeting of the city council prior to our workshop on Wednesday, beginning at 6 p.m., prior to our 6:30 workshop. With that, I will ask if there's any other business to come before council this evening.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
First, in two or 3 seconds, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Next week.